Janice, how you
Hi,
doing?
Gil. I'm great. How are you doing?
Good, good. So good to see you. It's been a while. We got the matching colors too. That wasn't planned.
We're in sync like that.
That's right. But yes, thank you so much for being here on this call. So I started doing these interviews because I wanted to give some more insight into our program, and I always want to connect with people who had really not just a great external transformation, but also a great internal transformation. And I thought you're the perfect person to talk about it. So I'm happy you're here.
I'm really glad to be here, Gil. I'm so glad you reached out.
Thank you, Janice. Okay, so to begin, just for our audience to get to know you, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, maybe what you do for a living?
Sure. So I'm Toronto born and raised, and I sell real estate in the city and the GTA, which, as a realtor, when I first got started nearly 20 years ago, there was no GTA necessarily. So that's what I do. And I'll say this, and I hope you don't mind me sharing, just because I think you're going to reach all kinds of people, or I hope you do, just based on what I've experienced with being, an MT gal. But I'm also, single, living alone by choice. And it was interesting being in the program and understanding how I could also tailor what needed to be tailored to me with that lifestyle. So I hope you don't mind me just adding
No,
that.
no,
But
not at all. Not at
yeah.
all. Okay. Maybe yeah, before we get into all that, can you tell us in the past what you were struggling with, the things that made you reach out to me? Essentially, like what is your why? What was your why or what is your why?
So, at the time, it was mid-July. I think I reached out to you like midsummer of 2020. I did the fall program. And pandemic, what we were not quite fresh into it, but at this point, I think most of us understood and knew how to navigate. And real estate was just going crazy. I was super busy, which was typical for me as a realtor anyway. But this was busy in a different way. And there was a lot of eating on the go, a lot of quick convenience meals, a lot of takeout. And historically, I've never had an issue with my weight in terms of I was never dissatisfied. I'd certainly have moments when, okay, girl, you put on a few pounds, or, my clothes didn't fit quite the way I like them to, that sort of thing, but never to a point where I was unhappy and needed to address something. I've always been a very balanced eater. I don't feel guilty at all
Mhm.
um, about indulging or having a good stretch of super indulgent meals. But I also really do, when I'm sort of on my own at home, I make really balanced choices. But what was happening around that time was I couldn't sort of get back on track. And I couldn't quite understand why. Like, if I cut out the takeout, or if I cut out the eating, or if I tried to do meal prep on a Sunday, which was what I was trying to do before COVID hit, it wasn't really effective anymore. And I didn't quite know how to get a handle back on it. And I really was unhappy with my weight at that point. I went to a cousin's wedding and I saw my picture and I saw everyone else in the picture. I'm like, they all look the same. So this is clearly the way I look. So I was thinking about it, but I knew some people from my previous brokerage who had done your program. And I wasn't top of mind, to be honest, until someone posted something on social media. And this person is pretty low key on social media, isn't really public with stuff. But she was like, I think you were doing an online exercise program. And she had posted about that. And I thought, let me connect with her because she's a lot like me. Like, we approach certain things the same, approach life in the same way, but she also wouldn't post something if for her it wasn't credible. And I was
Right.
like, let me see what this is all about. So I messaged her. She told me about you. She told me about your program. I was like, that's it. Immediately after I messaged her, I messaged you. and you had already started a July program. And one thing, I don't know if I ever said this to you, but one thing that I was like, okay, this guy is legit through and through, was you were like, I've already started the summer program. It's too far gone for you to join. It's better that you wait for fall. And I was like, okay, this guy's not just out to grab another client. Like, this is a thorough sort of, I want you to have the proper experience, and we need to do it in sort of this way. And it's best that we do it this way. So that was sort of my intro to the program. But what really got me was you handling it that way, which, of course, knowing you now, is like, of course you did, so I think I answered the question. I tend to
Yeah.
go on.
No, thank you. Because I was actually going to lead into how you found out about the program. So you did two birds with one stone.
Okay,
But
good.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, I always get that too. People messaging me when it's too late, maybe a week or two in, and the program it's really an experience that I try to create. Because like we were talking about, all the information is out there for free. Anyone can really do this on their own if they wish, if they have the time to navigate things and go through all the different obstacles and go through all the noise.
Yeah.
But what we do on the program is I try to take everyone from very basic step by step. Like I have a lot of physicians now who I work with, even dietitians and nutritionists who arguably are more intelligent than me in the food and nutrition space, but just for their own journey and development, it's hard for some people to do. So what I like to do is really just break it down from an elementary level and move you guys step by step. So, and drip feeding content. So for someone to come in even 2 weeks in, it would be kind of like if I don't know if people here watching are Game of Thrones fans, if you just try to go into seasons 2 without watching season 1, or trying to
Right.
kind of rush through the episodes without really internalizing the things that we're teaching, then you won't get the full viewer's experience. So in our sense, you won't get the full experience of the transformation. Sure, you might find the external transformation, the weight loss, but that internal transformation, which I want to talk to you about later, that is something that cannot be achieved if we rush through it. So that's why I hold people off if they are too late to join the group. So thanks for sharing that.
No problem, because you're right. Having experienced the program, those 2 weeks or whichever, but especially those first 2 weeks, they're fundamental.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that whole fundamental level, and it's a lot of technical info, but it's something that kind of we have to get through. It's like if someone's trying to run a marathon, but they don't know how to walk yet. There's
Right.
no point trying to do that. So baby steps essentially. Yeah, so kind of just want to ask you, when you did this and maybe you've tried other things in the past, what do you feel was different for you in this experience? What was unique or what stood out to you that you found was really beneficial to you?
So I had done something in the past, like easily 20 years before. But again, nothing drastic. I mean, can I mention your competitor? I don't know if I
Yeah,
can,
yeah,
but okay.
it's okay.
So I'd done Weight Watchers. So always my approach to weight loss, even for myself, was just developing those healthier habits in a more consistent way. And so when I first chatted with this person, I asked about that, and she was like, there's no gimmick. There's like nothing to buy. There's, none of that stuff. I'm like, okay, perfect. And there were no restrictions. There were no whatevers. I'm like, this goes with my mindset. That's perfect. And so what I was probably initially uh, drawn to, I would say, and that really, as we began with the program, really was impactful for me, as much as there is the true, nuts and bolts of it, which is calorie counting and, portions and all that, and how to navigate those for yourself. It was new ways to do things. So the shopping list blew my mind, like it still does, and it's still the way I will shop. And I don't know if you want me to touch on that, but
Yeah,
when
sure.
you
This is open conversation. No
is it
worries. Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So the categories of, foods that are supporting your plan, then foods that might not support it as well, foods that you just know if you eat those, like you're off on a wild chase, and then the others where it's like, excuse me, sorry, just, maybe indulge, but can't have it around you. So that ABCD
Right.
list. And and going to willpower. And so I was in a time in my life too where I was needing of, have some food on hand, have some prep stuff, have some whatever. So you're not, racing out to get something, or, not everything is a treat because you're out and about. So why not just grab whatever it was? So that was mind blowing. And then really impactful for me because again, it was definitely about weight loss, but I knew I needed a shift because what I used to try and do wasn't working. So that's a mental thing, right? It really was the progress reports for me. Because what it allowed for me to do was have a moment to myself at the end of the week to really reflect on not just what went well that week in the program, but just it allowed me to further reflect on what went well for me overall. And especially at that time, I didn't recognize how much I needed that. And that more than anything just reinforced why I was doing this, who I was doing this for, and what I wanted to sort of get out of it. Like we go through life and we might not always think about this, or at least I didn't, I've had a very untraditional life. So, my path wasn't, school, then university, then get married, then whatever. Some people say I'm carefree or not carefree, free spirit. Maybe I am. But I also grew up very structured. I'm the eldest of five, that came with a lot of responsibilities. And as much as I live my life and it's sort of just me I take care of, you don't often pause to think about like, what am I doing this for? And having that weekly moment to pause was amazing. It really was amazing for me.
Yeah, I want to dive into that in a second. I just want to touch back with what you said about just things like the process and taking the grocery list for as an example.
Yeah,
So yeah, because a lot of times people, I don't like to rely on willpower or motivation for long-term success. For short-term goals, they can always work. Like if someone wants to get ready for a vacation or a wedding,
right.
yeah, you could use a lot of willpower. You could do restrictions and all types of stuff, but it doesn't work long-term. So I'd rather create a system for you guys, as you mentioned, some structure in order to make more informed decisions. So it doesn't necessarily mean things are off limits per se, but it's something you have to evaluate for yourself. So
Totally.
if there's things in your environment that can sabotage you, then we try to not have them around as much as possible. Because out of sight, out of mind is huge, right? And when it's not there and it's not around, then you don't have to rely on willpower and motivation. So these are the things like we try to identify. Of course, there's a technical component of seeing how much you eat and the portions, but of course, when you have a strategy where you can add things into your plan by identifying it, by writing it down, then you're more likely to be adherent. You're gonna commit to it and you're gonna do it. And these lists can always evolve, right? That's the beauty of it. You can always change depending on how your tastes change or your preferences change. So it's always
Totally.
evolving, but it's always good to revisit. And you can use this tool for life. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thanks.
Yeah,
Um,
it
and yeah,
has evolved for me.
yeah, and the progress reports is so key as well. So right now, when I when you see the promotions I do on social media, you always see like a great before and after of someone, right? And that's kind of what attracts people to the program, and that's how I can generate conversations with people. But when they actually have the conversation with me, I always say, yes, weight loss, fat loss is a great goal. But what I want for everyone is not just that external transformation, but the internal transformation. Because when you understand what you are doing, you understand your own why, and you could verbalize it, write it down, then I feel that is what is going to help someone become successful long term. And even if they have setbacks where sometimes life just gets in the way and you kind of maybe relinquish the reins a bit, you may gain a little bit of weight, but just by reflecting back and knowing what you've done before and you've gone through this process, you know you will always get back on track. So just for everyone watching, what I always ask everyone to do is I always ask everyone at the end of the week to talk about what went well during this particular week, what didn't go well, things to improve, specific questions for me, and the non-scale victories. So the non-scale victories I like to highlight as well because people get too focused on the numbers, but it's so many more things that can come out of it, right? The energy, your self-confidence, that can all come into play. And again, with that whole process, if you can follow through and do everything, not just in terms of the tracking and posting your food for me to see, but really self-reflecting, and you have this great formula or process like you develop, then those results will come. So that's what I always tell everyone. If you just focus on the numbers and the scale, and that's it, it's going to be very hard. But if you really internalize all the lessons that we teach and go through the motions and do the self-reflection like you did, especially every week, and you have a process in place that's sustainable, that's enjoyable, that you can do, then those results will come for sure and they will stay. And you did such a fantastic job with that, with the self-reflection.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge for me. The metrics were important, but it really, certainly I wanted to lose weight, and certainly I wanted to find a new formula for me in this new version of whatever life was becoming at that time. Um, and just as a side note to what you were saying, like I have gained weight in the last, almost 2 years, but it's never been like, oh my goodness, uncontrollable. And it's also never been like, I knew that I could apply the fundamentals and the principles to bringing myself back to where I personally wanted to be. I never feel like I'm off track, but certainly to sort of bring it back to where I wanted to be. So those fundamentals are ingrained. It's incredible. But what I was going to say is the metrics were great just to see certainly where you were at every week. And I would think probably a typical, maybe even a slower weight loss, but especially as you said, the non-scale victory, or even what went well, what didn't go well, it really did make me recognize just how much bigger this was than all of that. And it was a really fantastic, quiet moment for me to be with myself. As a realtor, I would think most of the realtors I know, everybody is different. We really are here to service our clients. We really are here to take care of them, advocate for them, all of that stuff. And again, like it can look like a glamorous life, even maybe a little bit of what you do, Gil, Coach Gil, and you inspire all these people and you really do, but you do need those moments just for you to remember that and to also see how far you've come, even if it doesn't feel like you're moving. And I think especially aligned with everything else, the weight loss, the health benefits, all of that, sometimes it's really hard to see where you've come from to where you're going. And when I look back on those progress reports from time to time, as much as the numbers were also like, oh, look at my before and after, it's the progress reports that are like, wow, look at my before and
Yeah,
after.
I loved it. I love reading your reports. I missed them actually, just because how detailed they were, and you can really not just, of course, see the physical changes, but I could feel that internal change happening. And
Yeah,
for me, when I see that, I'm like, oh yeah, she's got it. She has that mighty transformation within her. And
totally.
to be honest with that, because it was so powerful and successful for you and the other ladies. So you and Pam on your team also help inspire. It's a smaller scale, but every day we do a bit of self-reflection as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so just a tiny scale, but again, it's so it reminds everyone every day that even if you have a bad day, it's not
Yeah,
necessarily the end of the world because one bad day is not going to offset anything as long as we are consistent most of the time. So when they do these every day, and then at the end of the week, they can reflect back on every single day and say, oh yeah, this is kind of how it went, but yeah, I didn't have a great day on Tuesday, but Wednesday I made these adjustments because of Tuesday I saw what went wrong. I was able to bounce back right away. So it's more of a continuous mini cycles every day, and then a bigger one at the end of the week. But this whole self-reflection thing, I think, was awesome, and just because you did really great at it, I found it very powerful, and to do just a smaller scale every day. And what that also improved in the program was taking those days when you have good days, and we were able to make some tangible tasks now out of those days. So if you can repeat those, then you'd likely have a successful day. So essentially, building these behaviors and habits slowly, so that, again, we're talking about that process. You have something that is going to be like a formula specific to you that will help you be successful, not just in the time we work together, but beyond.
Ongoing. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah. So thank you for inspiring that.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I had no idea. That's very cool.
Yeah. I think the last thing I just want to ask you, so going back to the person who referred you and saying that, on social media, she doesn't really say much. And when you saw that, it kind of prompted you to inquire more. So I remember when you did your transformation, and in what you put in the blog or in the post saying, I don't post much on social media as well. And here I am talking about this program that I did. So what I want to ask you, because after that post, I think all of 2021, especially the winter season, so the season right after yours, I think I had 31 clients, 32 clients that winter season. I think a third of them, at least 10 of them, were referred by you because of what you did. So the question I want to ask you is, you did the post, but who did you feel that you could touch or inspire from that? And like a follow-up is, who do you think this program would be right for? Like, who would be the right person or the type of person that you feel would succeed on this type of program?
So to answer your first question first, I have to say, I mean, when I did that post, it really was sort of like this internal joy that I was just so happy to share. I didn't necessarily do it hoping that it would reach people. I mean, I'm glad that it did, and I didn't do it selfishly, but I really kind of just did it because it was like, I can't believe I've done this, but I can't believe, to what we've talked about, how amazing I felt, and what the program meant for me. So I don't really think I was speaking to anyone, but maybe more just almost like a journal, like almost maybe speaking to me.
Right.
But I think, and this is sort of why I mentioned off the top about, me living on my own and, single by choice or whatever it is. And, it hasn't been my whole life and it might not be. But, sometimes society can make us think this is only for this type of person, or this is only for someone in this scenario. And that's not Mighty Transformation. Mighty Transformation is truly for everyone and anyone who is really ready to, I was going to say confront, and I don't necessarily mean that word, but who's ready to look at what might be making them have this shift that is showing up in weight gain. And, one of the things which is amazing is, you mentioned a group of 30 women in your winter session of 2021. I don't remember how many we had, but probably in around 20 or so. What was amazing is for all of us to be sort of walking this path, but having different experiences. And what's really amazing about that is, as much as you really become accountable to your team in that you share what you're doing, you share what you're eating, you truly encourage, it just really begins to happen organically. What you also do is you take things that might not be specific to you and think, oh, I didn't even think about how to apply that. Or, that's an interesting challenge that I don't have to deal with. And I recognize where someone else going through a completely different challenge can also have Mighty Transformation assist them in a way that works for them as much as it's different from me, if that makes sense. So if what you're wanting to do is lose weight and that's what you come in at it with initially, it wasn't only the thing I came in at it with for myself. So maybe it was a little bit of an anomaly that way. You will find that it's going to be so much more. If you are kind of unhappy and you know it's showing in the way you're eating and your habits, and you're becoming your version of a couch potato, and you want to understand why, that you will also get out of this. It's interesting, Gil, because I look back at some of this stuff now, and I'm applying different aspects of the program to little things that I'm doing right now. So, in the summer, I was focused on willpower. When I was going on vacation, I sort of knew a month out and I was like, okay, you want to lose a little bit more weight. I started the tracking again in a very specific way. So it wasn't so much about the self-transformation, but it really became about those principles of, okay, track, see what you're doing, keep a list of it, remember your top meals, that sort of thing. And I can pull that out of it and bring it back to my life. So I truly would say Mighty Transformation is going to meet you where you are, and then you will sort of bring yourself not up to, but you will connect where you need to connect, because the program is so full. There is not one area that won't touch you. I don't know how else to say it but that. I don't even know if I answered your question, but that's sort of my feeling on it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you did. Because I when I do these assessments, so I do these interviews with anyone who wants to join, and I have to make sure that their why is strong enough. So if someone's just joining for a quick beach body for the summer, then it's likely not something that is going to be worth the investment nor the time to them, because they're not going to really experience what they should experience. And it's a life-changing thing that I know it sounds dramatic, but it's not, because when someone does go through it like you have, and you have this, not just the behaviors, habits, and the tool set, but this positive mindset that I think can be long lasting. And the things that you learn can perpetuate to other parts of your life. And
Totally.
it's so applicable. So it's really great to see you do that. And again, like the reason why I wanted to do these interviews is just to inspire people also to see if this is something that would be for them or not for them. But I think having these conversations can definitely open that door, possibly, or even
Yeah.
have someone reach out. And as always, I always tell people, the program may not be for you also, like when we have these conversations, but I always want to point people in the right directions. But at least just opening that door and having the opportunity for people to reach out and hear someone else's story, I think is super powerful. So thank you so much, Janice, for doing this. I really appreciate you, and I do miss working with you. So hopefully one day we can do another project together.
I would love that. We'd have to figure it out. And it's my pleasure. I miss working with you. Like, to anybody who wants to reach out to me and, get a, speak personally, like obviously you can't chat to me on this platform. I'm happy to. It's really life-changing.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Janice, for your time. And hopefully, yeah, we get to work together again, but let's stay in touch. And I was always glad to hear from you and to hear your long-term progress and success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gil.
All right. Take care.
You too.